I'm Diego Cordovez with Adam Schoenfeld. Welcome to another episode of The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. And today we don't need a lot of introduction. We have Jerry Yang, who's the
champ,
defending champ. Everybody who comes down wants to be the champ, and he did it last year.
Did he ever?
He's the man. Did he ever is right. And the interesting thing is that he really hasn't been that visible since he won. I haven't seen a lot of interviews with him. He hasn't played a lot of tournaments. So we saw what ESPN showed us, but let's say in contrast to Jamie Gold, for example, he's kept a lower profile.
We saw a lot of Jamie.
Well, we saw a lot of Jamie, and he was in the news a lot after he won. Jerry's kind of maintained a low profile, and I think it'll be interesting to...
He's maintained a lower litigation profile, certainly.
That too. He managed to keep his entire prize, for example.
Right.
So that's why I'm curious about finding out about what he was doing last year when he won, because he knocked out 7 of his 8 opponents at the final table, which was a spectacular run, and what he's up to in general.
Great.
So now that the World Series is underway, they're showing last year's final table on almost a continuous loop on ESPN, getting ready for this year. And we had Lee Watkinson on, and he talked about this too, the fact that you'd built up an image of being a conservative type player, and then when the final 9 started, you shifted to another gear and started to run over the table. And I think the other players seemed to still be reacting to the previous image they'd formed. And it took them a while to adjust, and you accumulated a lot of chips. Is that more or less correct? Was that your strategy?
Absolutely. And Adam, I'm pretty sure Adam would agree with me. In poker, you have to be able to mix up your games. You can't be playing the same old style over and over again. And luckily for me, the night before, I had a chance to play with a few of my opponents at the final table.
Right.
And I was able to pick up on some of the things that they did. I noticed that most of them played kind of tight. And so that night when I went to bed, I spent some time with my wife, and after she went to bed, I did a little meditation and just say, you know what, I'm short stack. This is what I learned about my opponents. I'm going to go out there tomorrow and be the aggressor, and that's what I did. And fortunately, it worked out for me.
Jerry, were you scared because you were not a full-time player and you hadn't had any big tournament wins before this, and now you're on the biggest stage in poker? Were you scared?
I was not really. Actually, I'm a trained psychologist, so I know how to deal with pressure, being under pressure, what it's like to be in that position. So I try to use that to my advantage. And I know I was a little nervous, just a little bit, but at the same time, I realized that my opponents too also were under a lot of pressure themselves. And
maybe more pressure because there were more expectations on
maybe,
some of them.
Yes, maybe. So, I had to do what I had to do, and most of the time when you're in that situation, and if you can take the pressure, or you have the courage to apply the pressure, sometimes it work out for you.
They didn't show the last 2 or 3 tables very much, or when they did show them, they didn't focus on you very much because they hadn't really expected you to be the winner. But were you playing a very different style? Were you playing fewer hands, or just not playing as aggressively on the flop or after the flop? Was this the big change that you made when you got to the final table?
Yes, before when we went to under like 100 people, I just wanted to really make it to the final table. Obviously, at that time, we also made a lot of money already,
right?
And that would have been a life-changing amount for my family, especially for a family man with 6 kids.
6 kids.
And so, but I did change the style just a little bit. I became a little more of a risk taker, toward the final table, and thank God it worked out for me. So.
There was one hand that was very memorable to me, and I think it really set the tone for the final table. And this was actually the hand against Lee Childs, the young guy from Virginia. And he had pocket queens, I believe you had pocket jacks. And the flop came very small, and he bet out and you moved in on him. And he laid down after a lot of thought, which is a huge laydown. I mean, when you're playing, you've got pocket queens,
I have pocket jacks, actually.
You had pocket jacks, and he had pocket queens.
Right.
And he laid them down, which is an enormous laydown. I mean, and I just wonder a couple of things. when you moved in, were you really thinking he might have you beat and that you would try to get him to lay down, or did you think that you had the best hand? And also, did you have some specific tell on him or some read on him, like you said, where you had studied your opponents and where you thought he'd be someone who was playing conservatively or who might want to move up the ladder, and that you could specifically target him as with your aggression?
Well, one particular hand that I played with him before that hand, it was like a couple of days before that. I raised with Queen Jack of hearts, and he re-raised me, and then I called, and the ace came on the flop, and I went in bed, and he folded, and he showed me the kings. So that sort kind of helped me with that particular hand that you mentioned. But regarding that particular
so maybe
hand,
you shouldn't have showed the kings. Would be one lesson.
Yeah,
here, right?
absolutely. If he had not done that, I would have probably just kind of fold. I knew he had a big hand.
Yeah.
But I tried to play like I had kings. I tried to make him think that I had pocket kings, because I remember he raised and then I re-raised, and then he just called me.
So he doesn't have the aces probably.
Right, and so because there were no ace, I just trying to make him think that I had kings, and he was very gracious. He saw me like maybe a month later at Caesar's Palace, and he said, "Jerry, I really thought you had a big hand, and that is why I folded." So I think I succeeded in making him think that I had a huge pocket pair.
When you came out at the final table and you were making large pre-flop bets, probably 5 times the big blind, which a lot of people just make it 3 or 2.5 or 3.5. You were making 5, but it seemed like it just threw all the other players, including the seasoned pros, off balance. Could you see that you were having this psychological effect on the others? You rattled them.
Absolutely. That was my plan from the very beginning, especially at the beginning of the final table. I knew that if I put a lot of pressure, and if anyone's going to call my raise, they're probably going to have to raise their whole tournament. And I'm trying to make him think that, hey, I am committed to this pot. I am going all the way. And if you're going to go against me, then you might have to risk your tournament or lose a lot of chips to me.
There's so much to be said for that, in the sense that obviously in a cash game in the early stages of a tournament, that would be a terrible strategy. But in the final table of the main event, where the prize money changes so dramatically from spot to spot, when there's so much pressure with the cameras, it's a great strategy, because people really are scared to go in without the nuts or without a very strong hand. So, I mean, this is the one time when that's like the perfect
This was power poker.
It really was power poker.
Now these days there's a lot of talk about small ball poker, and certainly there are some very gifted practitioners of that style. But last year you put on a master clinic in power poker.
Thank you so much. Very kind of you to say that. Yeah.
There's another thing that I noticed watching the final table, and maybe it goes along with this, and I'm curious whether it was conscious or unconscious, which is that when you were involved in a hand, a lot of times you'd stand up, you'd try and stand over the player, and you were very confident and very decisive, just in your emotions. When you put your chips in, you put them in, very, very quickly, very decisively. Now, maybe that was just the way you were feeling, or was that like a psychological tool that you were using to kind of reinforce this intimidation that you were trying to project?
I try to let my opponent know that I am serious. I was very serious about each pot that I went into. I meant real business, and and again, I want to thank God for giving me the win and giving me the courage to make such bet and such call. And so I guess that was my style back then. I have changed a little bit, actually. Now that I went back and looked at some of the plays that I did, I have adjusted to a certain extent, and so this year I will be maybe not a completely different Jerry, but somewhat a different player this year.
You have to adjust for the perception that people have gained about you. I mean, otherwise you'll be too easy to read, correct?
Oh, I get that all the time, Diego. I mean, I just like just before I got here, I saw a gentleman in the hallway, and he said, "Hey, congratulations to you, but this year I'm going to take you down."
There's probably a million people who are thinking that.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
that's okay.
Adam and I talk about this a lot, which is just playing on full tilt poker as Red Pros, even where there's $100 bounty, people are trying to knock us out, getting in there with terrible hands.
Yeah.
To go home and say that they knocked out Jerry Yang, or I mean, that's such a big deal for people. That
Oh, absolutely. And if I was in their shoes, I would probably do the same thing.
Right. You mentioned the the role that religious faith played in your win. Obviously, it gave you a lot of confidence, and it gave you a lot of peace of mind. Watching the broadcasts, you and your supporters were, very vocal in terms of, in terms of your faith. When I watch football games or sporting events, and people talk about God or Christ, as they're getting ready to kick a field goal or shoot a free throw, I'm always disconcerted because I've never understood whether this is like a literal thing where God is supposed to impact whether someone completes a pass or hits a home run, or in whether this is an appropriate thing for in the priorities of the world for God to be focused on a football game or a poker tournament. I mean, how does that reconcile in your mind?
That's a very good question, and I think in a way I look at poker as a sport, but more on the mental side. And obviously, we have a lot of pressure when we sit especially at the final table at the main event. I pray to my God not for a specific card or anything. I pray to Him for the strength and for the wisdom to be a better player, to make the calls that maybe to give me the courage, if you will, to make the call that I feel in my heart that maybe it's the right call, or to fold when I needed to fold. So I don't want all the viewers, all the fellow poker players out there, or anybody out there to have the a belief that, hey, Jerry Yang was praying for a specific card.
Right.
Not at all. Not at all.
God, give me the flush. For example.
and so you may know my past history. I survived the refugee camp, the escape from Laos to Thailand, and so my faith in my God is very strong. And I could have gone home a happy man. Even if I didn't make it to the final table, if I didn't make the money, I met people like Adam and Chris Ferguson and Howard Lederer and
I like that grouping.
and Johnny Chan, Daniel Negreanu, these wonderful world-class players. And I took some photos with them, and I would have gone home and a happy man. But you know what? To actually win the whole championship was really a blessing.
It's a fantastic thing. It's something that for the rest of your life you'll be a champion. I mean, you do it once, you're part of history forever, part of the history of poker. So that's what's great about this event.
Do you consider yourself a professional poker player now?
No, not at all. In fact, I still consider myself a true rookie, actually, an amateur true rookie. I have played a few WPT events, a couple of circuit events, and I played Binions, which I came, I think, 14th. I played the event in the day one-on-one. I think it's the 2000.
Right.
And I made the money, but that's about it. And so I still have a lot to master, Adam, and a lot to learn, a lot to master. I still watch WPT on TV, listen to Mike and Vince and their comments, which really helped me a lot. I'm still reading some poker books, and so I still have a lot to go.
So you've mentioned you're a family man with 6 kids. You don't need to win another poker tournament to feel fulfilled. Would that be a fair statement?
Absolutely, it's fair. Although I love poker, it would be nice if I can win another bracelet, maybe, or maybe a WPT championship. That would be wonderful. But I feel in my heart I have, so many things going for me. Including the charities I'm involved with, and also I look forward to doing more for poker as a reigning champion. Hopefully in the future I have the opportunity to get into some of the issues, learn more about issues about poker and the legality aspect of that, and be able to be a good ambassador for poker.
Is poker more important to you as a means to an end, or in itself is it a challenge and something that's fulfilling, just the competition of playing? Or do you see it that, well, this is an opportunity for me to do good things and to, communicate other things, but not so much important in and of itself?
Oh no, I love poker. Poker is a game that we all should support and really, do our best to really promote that. Mm-hmm. And so I will always play poker for the rest of my life. No doubt about that. It also gives me the opportunity now that I have a little fame on my side. I'm able to use that to benefit other people, like the kids that I'm helping, today, and some of the underprivileged kids across America. Adam and Diego, I tour with Feed the Children through some poor cities in America. Before I came to America, I envisioned America to be a land which filled with milk and honey.
Right.
And when I came, I lived in the projects in Nashville, Tennessee, and to tour some of the poor cities in America like Kentucky, Alabama, Arkansas. That really broke my heart. And I want to do something for these families. I want to give something back to the country that gave me a second chance at freedom.
And you have done a lot. I mean, it's been well documented.
Thank you.
A lot of people talk about it, but you actually stepped forward, and in terms of money and time, you've contributed to a whole number of important causes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I mean, Jerry Yang is the American dream. I mean, it's such a cliche, but this is the real deal.
Textbook. You can look it up.
Jerry, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Let me say, as a representative of poker, I mean, given that the world champion gets a lot of attention and a lot of publicity, you represent all of us so well. We really appreciate you, everything you're doing.
Thank you so much. You mind if I say a couple words before we close?
Of course.
Yeah, I noticed you were Fortail over there. I want to thank Fortail, for giving me the sponsorship into the main event this year. I also want to thank Tachi Palace Hotel and Casino in Lemoore, California, for their sponsorship into a couple of smaller events and the main event, and also Quorum Watches for their sponsorship. I'm actually writing a book right now too, and hopefully that book will be released in the fall, maybe early winter. It will be about my life and about winning the world championship. And so in August I'll be in Florida I'm partnering with Poker Talk America to do a charity event for the Ronald McDonald House. And so if you folks are in the area, please come out and support me at Palm Beach Kino Club on August 23 and 24. And thank you so much for having me.
Jerry, thank you very much for coming by.
Thank
it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop. Thanks for joining us on The Scoop. Don't forget to write us at thescoop@cardplayer.com with questions for our upcoming guests or suggestions for guests or other funny comments. See you soon.
2 bracelets. Awesome.
Well, these aren't easy to win. I remember this one like it was yesterday. My opponent had me down to my left. Sorry. Anyway, it's down to my last few chips. So I had to call.
We play at FullTailPoker.com.